Shall we talk a little bit about your Utah Jazz?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's go ahead and first jump into, the first topic that we wanted to talk about for your Utah Jazz. Oh, man, let's slide over, man. We're doing rookie moves over here.
Rookie moves. It's fine.
It's all good.
Everything's fine. Everything is awesome.
It's great. Let's go ahead and first talk about, there's a couple of players we want to talk about that's kind of had a great start to their season. And in this episode, what we're going to be doing is talking about your boy, John Collins.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about him, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. John Collins has been on fire this season. He's probably been one of the best players on the floor for the Jazz at all times. I mean, he's been an integral part of the few wins that the Jazz do have. So, I mean, my question is this what we want as Jazz fans, or would we rather see him be moved or the Jazz make a different decision with him?
So John Collins has been making waves in the NBA this season with a very impressive performance for the Jazz so far. After somewhat an underwhelming season last year, Collins has bounced back to average 18 points, 8.9 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.5 steals, plus a block per game over his last 10 games, which his field goal percentage stands at a very impressive 53.5%, showcasing his more efficiency when it comes to scoring.
Yeah.
He's currently a 50-40-90 guy, AJ.
That doesn't happen very often in the NBA.
That is very, very rare.
I think the last one was Steph Curry.
It was, I believe it was
maybe
Durant.
KD.
It was Durant.
Maybe KD. Okay.
It was the right team, though. It was when he was with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
But currently right now, the only one who's close to those numbers in the NBA is Darius Garland of Cleveland, which his marks are 49, 44, and 95. Collins' resurgence has not gone unnoticed. Head coach Will Hardy has praised him, calling him the engine of the team. Despite the praise, there's ongoing rumors the Jazz are basically just showcasing Collins as a potential trade target ahead of the February 6th deadline. The Jazz are reportedly prioritizing draft positions this season and are open to trading Collins along with other players like Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. While Collins is a key player with the Jazz, his future with his team remains uncertain. His strong performance this season has certainly increased his trade value. And it will be interesting to see what the Jazz decide to do to capitalize on his resurgence or kind of keep him as we continue on with this rebuild. What do you think about Collins' performance this season? Do you think the Jazz should keep him or trade him?
I mean, the fact is you kind of mentioned draft position here, and we got another potential draft target here that we'll talk about in just a minute. But John Collins is making himself into an asset, which is exactly what the Utah Jazz needed him to do. Right. The fact is his usage is currently at 22.4%, which is in the 83rd percentile. So they're using him. And like you said, they're showcasing him to show that this guy does have talent. I mean, it's crazy to think, what would he have been if we would have utilized him in the actual scenario when we had a team that was built to win?
Yeah.
Like if John Collins would have been this guy when we had Mike Conley still on the roster, when we just traded for Lauri Markkanen, when we still had, I mean, who else was on those teams? But we actually could have, if he would have been this guy then,
yeah,
this team would have looked crazy good. So we missed it. We missed it just by like that much. Okay. His turnover percentage is at 15.8, which is tied for the highest since his rookie year, where he had the same 15.8%. That's not great. No. But when your usage is in the 83rd percentile, you're obviously getting used more than most players in the NBA. So you got to give somewhere, right? He's not going to be the most turnover efficient player when your usage is, in the upper three quarters of the league. So Collins has been great. I mean, he's shooting 43% from three. He's in the 90th percentile in that percentage, and he's 53% from the corners is what Collins is currently doing. So do we need to move him? I don't know. It depends on what his draft value actually turns into. And I'll be really curious to see what the Jazz end up doing with him.
So while he is having a good year,
yeah,
right, and he would fit in and slide into any contender, he has a player option next year for $26 million.
Exactly. That he's opting into.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
100% opting into, because no one's going to pay him more than that.
Yeah. Unless somebody offers him and says, hey, take out that last year of eligibility and give you a 2-year contract with. But he's not going to take that.
No,
He's not going to.
no.
Yeah,
He's going to take the 26 million.
Yeah. So is he really an asset? Like, I just have a hard time believing that no matter how good he's playing right now, the Jazz are going to be able to move that contract. I just don't know. And the only way you can do that is by giving away young talent and potential draft picks, which is what we're trying to hoard and get out of him in the first place. So I don't really know the likelihood that he is going to be traded. While I think the Jazz are going to try, and do they want to? Absolutely. Do I think they will? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. That's my take. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the best situation for the Jazz is definitely to get what you can get for him. If somebody's going to offer you to move him, you don't want to take on 26 million next season.
No, you don't.
Because he's got the option.
Well, I think you only pay Laurie next year as far as big contract money. And you do need to hit the salary floor.
Yeah, but you're gonna. I think next year you're able to offer. I mean, if you're gonna have a top 5 draft pick, you're gonna have to pay that boy.
No, it's gonna be his rookie contract, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. But
I mean, he does have some guaranteed money where he's making like $15 million a year. But
we are going to be getting some of these guys that we're going to have to start offering to pay some people though.
Yeah,
you do have Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks.
We got to get into him, by the way. I want to talk about him. That's gonna be a future episode.
Yeah.
I would say that there's some room to definitely talk about him, and I do want to talk about him. So we're gonna save that one for a future episode. But we'd love to hear from you folks. Let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about John Collins? Do you think the team is really playing him up to try and move him, or is he just just trying to show his value and just really balling out for this team?
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments down
Absolutely.
below. Speaking of comments, let's go ahead and jump into some of the comments here. The first one we got here is from Greg Hawkins,
friend of the channel.
Exactly. How about 40-point win followed by a 40-point loss?
Tell me that's not the most brutal thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, man, this Jazz team has figured something out. They've got it. Here we go. And then just to get torched like the next night is like, okay, well, all the things that we figured out were clearly not working.
Yeah, Danny H came in the locker room after that win. He's like, okay,
he's like,
good job. Here, guys.
Cut that ass out.
Champagne. He's like, all right, okay. So going forward, we're not doing that.
Whatever you guys were doing, that's next season.
Bring it back a little bit. Okay, let's
season.
Bring it down for sure. Yeah, but that's Jazz basketball this year, man. You get huge insights to how well the team's going to perform, and then immediately after that, you're like, ugh. Definitely.
We don't want anybody to know that.
Yeah, Kinley Cutler says John Collins, while his value is high, personally, I don't think he's a long-term piece. Definitely not. Might be a good bench player. Won't want to be the team that is giving him his next contract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Jazz are not going to be the teams that give him his next contract. You nailed it.
Honestly, if they may, it depends. You just got to understand that he was way overpaid last time.
Well, exactly. And that's true. It's not going to be a next big contract. And does he fit into the timeline? His age is about right. Mm-hmm. If he can stay productive. But the problem is if he digresses and he doesn't continue moving forward, we can't afford to have him even making a mid-salary with the production he's had for the last couple of years. So if we think that he's making steps and can continue to contribute to this team on a daily basis the way he is, I think, the Jazz could give him a mid-level contract for sure.
Yeah, we also have Greg Hawkins jumping back in here. That's the one we just read. And then we're there, and then we're here. Okay.
Yeah, go down to McKinley. Yeah.
There we go. Should clarify the bench player on a championship team. Yeah, that's a good clarification there.
Great point.
Yeah, definitely would make sure want to make that
clear. CBA is weird. Not making any new contracts difficult to get. Yeah.
Yes, and it's the threat of that second apron there is kind of making it hard for super teams to really build. I really think that the reason why Collins is on this team is because they need to pay somebody, and you got Laurie Markkinen, and now you have John Collins, who's basically helping us hit the salary floor. If we trade JC,
those two players make us hit the salary floor.
Trade JC, then you're gonna have to pay somebody, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I definitely think that the current CBA is definitely making it more difficult. We need to clear some space in cap for Walker and Kessler.
Walker and Kessler.
I like it. Walker and Kessler.
So Walker. Sorry, he goes to the next one. Says Walker and Keontae.
Walker and Keontae. I don't know, man. I'm not 100% sold on Keontae, man. He's averaging 4 to 5 turnovers per game over the last 8 games. His shot selection is definitely leaves much to be desired. And yes, he is a young second-year player. I get that. But in all reality, man, his future on this team as a point guard is definitely suspect for me.
Here's the thing, though. Keontae is the best shooting guard out of that class, though.
No, I agree. He's the best shooting guard, but that's not where we're playing him.
Right. Well, not where we're playing him right now. I understand we're playing him in the point guard position right now. That doesn't mean that's where he's going to end up.
Yes, but that's not good for his development, man. He needs to be developing where he's naturally suited to fit.
Where he needs to be developed is having the confidence to move the ball up the floor, to make decisions, and to get comfortable shooting it in situations that the Jazz need him to shoot it in.
I would agree. It also says here, I would also trade Colin Sexton if you can get 2 second-round picks or more.
See, I disagree there. I think you keep Sexton. I think Sexton, you're not going to get the value of 2 second-round picks, and 2 second-round picks are not worth the production you're going to get out of Colin Sexton.
What's his contract at right now?
I think he's only making 16 or 17 million a year, which is not crazy. And the fact is, Sexton is directly on the timeline with Laurie. He's like almost the exact same age. They might have been the same draft class.
I could see his trade value higher than JC is.
Oh, it is.
So
I think so, because Sexton's got that motor. I don't know. I like Sexton. I think you keep Sexton until this team gets turned around, as long as he's good staying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's obviously understanding. Well, A, he's under contract, but B, he has to understand that we're going to go through some growing pains. And as long as he understands that, I think you keep Sexton around as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think I like it. I think that's a good idea. But I also agree that I also do think his trade value is going to be higher. I kind of agree with McKinley there that that's a potential piece to move. If your goal is to get assets, to get young players back, get young talent back, I think you do that, man. Because if there's 2 players on this team that are getting in the way of this team's chance to be the bottom team in the West, which they currently aren't anymore, the Portland Trailblazers have passed them.
Yeah,
it's going to be Colin Sexton and John Collins. Those 2 players are getting in the way right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have to agree with you there on that one. Let's go ahead and catch up with the comments here. McKinley also says, I'm sold on Keontae being the NBA, being an NBA player,
just not a point guard. Yeah,
could not agree more.
Exactly.
Also, McKinley says here, what would you trade Sexton for? 1 first unprotected first-round pick
and maybe a young player. Ooh, that's a good question. If you have a young player with some potential upside, maybe a top 15, top 20 pick and an unprotected first round pick, yes, you probably do. If you've got a player that is top 15 with that much potential, yes, you move Colin.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what Ainge is going to probably want at somebody like that.
That's the only way Ainge moves him, I think.
Yeah, and also Pelicans are the what? I'm pretty sure
Pelicans are the.
Did you hear about the Brandon Ingram thing? Did we talk about that last week?
He finished it.
Okay.
Pelicans are the team at the bottom, not the Blazers. They still have 3.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Pelicans, not the Blazers.
McKinley, we appreciate you fact checking us as we're going, because we don't have all of them in front of us. So.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Yeah.
3 minds are better than 1.
I appreciate it. Speaking of which, we're talking a lot about draft prospects here, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that, shall we?
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned on a previous episode when we talked about who the Jazz should draft and what the options that the Jazz would have in that spot, and I said there's a good chance that Cooper Flagg may not be the number 1 draft pick this year.
Yeah.
And if the Jazz do get that opportunity, there's a chance there that the Jazz could draft somebody else, which is Dylan Harper.
Yeah. Dylan
Harper. Have you heard about this?
I have heard about this.
So former NBA star Ron Harper voiced his strong opposition to this happening, said this of his son being drafted by the Utah Jazz. Harper made a comment on social media saying that a trade would happen if the Utah Jazz selected Dylan in the 2025 NBA draft. This statement was likely influenced by Harper's own negative experience with the Jazz when he played against the NBA Finals against the Charlotte Bulls. We'll kind of get into that more. However, Harper did later clarify on social media that he was just joking and that Dylan can make his own decisions about his future team. Dylan is a standout freshman at Rutgers and is currently projected to be a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. He has impressed several NBA scouts, and a lot of folks are saying he could potentially be the number 1 overall pick this summer. He's averaging 23.8 points, 4.5 rebounds, 4.6 assists while shooting 51.1% from the field in his first 8 college games. Despite the initial comments, Harper did emphasize that he did not control his son's career, didn't control his son's career decisions, and he will choose his own path. What do you have on this, man?
Yeah, I mean, Harper he's a 6'6" freshman that's playing at Rutgers. The kid's obviously having a phenomenal season. Projected to go top 3 as of right now. If the draft happened today, the Utah Jazz are number 3.
Yeah.
So there's a big chance that obviously the Jazz are potentially looking at this. Remember, if you guys don't know, Ron Harper is the guy. The tweet that this was made on said specifically that Ron Harper didn't want to come to Utah a few years ago. That person actually mixed up with Derek Harper from the Lakers that said, would you go play in Utah?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that was mixed up with Derek Harper, not Ron Harper. So I did want to clarify that. I mean, as you read through it, it's not the same person that they're comparing it to. Ron Harper, this guy was a stud basketball player. I mean, he was the 8th overall pick in the 1986 NBA draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers. He won 5 NBA championships, 3 with the Bulls during the Michael Jordan era, where obviously in 2 of those, they did take down the Jazz, and then, 2 with the Lakers during the Kobe and Shaq era. So Ron Harper is an NBA legend, and there's nothing bad to be said about him until he started dissing on the Jazz and saying there would be a trade happen at the Jazz to take him. He doesn't actually have any ill will against the Jazz. And like you said, and I quote his exact words were, "I don't control my son or the NBA team draft board. I see pictures of a few teams that I would want him on, but it's not my career." And, he's not worried about where his son gets taken. The fact is, if your son's going to be drafted by an NBA team, you just let them go to the NBA.
Yeah.
There's going to be a choice in every single player's career where they get to choose where they go.
Yeah, he did mention he didn't exactly have a good experience here in Utah.
But I think a lot of that has definitely changed. I think the fan base has changed. I think the players changed. I think if Dylan Harper was to call Jordan Clarkson, who is a great person in the NBA community, and ask him, what do you love about Utah? I think Jordan Clarkson would give him multiple reasons to want to come here, play basketball. And the fact is there's nothing you're going to do. If the Jazz draft you, you're going to demand a trade.
Well,
try doing that right. Yeah, but try doing that right out the gate, right? All you're going to do is tarnish your own name. You go to play where you play.
Yeah. So do you think the Jazz take the option to draft this guy if they get a chance?
I think if he's the best available player, yeah, I think you absolutely draft him.
I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think you let what a father of a player tweets on on the X, whatever you want to call it, decide what you're going to do with your draft pick. Obviously, the Jazz have a great track record of getting players to the point where when they go to sign that free agent contract, they were put in their best position to win here. Name a single NBA free agent that left here, with the exception of Paul Millsap in the last 20 years, that actually performed better outside of Utah than they did inside.
Pretty rare.
Yeah. Also, I wouldn't ask Donovan Mitchell how his experience was here in Utah.
And also the fact is you've got a young coach in Will Hardy that is great at developing players. He's making our players better with each year. He's obviously been handed a very crappy deck of expectations from the Jazz brass. Like, hey, we can't win as much as you're coaching these guys to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there is going to come a point when you turn it loose and say, hey, we're ready. Like, we've got enough players. Let's win some ball games here.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be exactly the guy we needed in those situations.
Yeah, it was a hard realization when they actually said, when Ryan Smith said, hey, let's go out big game hunting. Let's get somebody in here. And it didn't work out. It's been proven this team does need to build from the draft. And I just hope that it's a quicker turnaround than it isn't. I don't know. There's a little bit of conspiracy theory because you can't really control who you draft. But isn't it a little interesting that Ryan Smith is paying $5 million for a player that just committed to BYU? That could potentially be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft in 2025. Sorry, 2026.
And if the Utah Jazz have the number 1 pick.
So I'm just saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Anyway, did you see what happened with Donovan Mitchell? He FaceTimed Juan Soto.
I did see that.
Congratulating him going to the Mets.
Yeah. Wasn't he with Juan Soto when he got the contract? I saw a video of him pouring. I thought it was him pouring champagne all over Soto.
I don't know. I just saw them FaceTiming.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what that was.
Maybe it was a different one.
Yeah. Very interesting. But anyway, interesting time to pivot on over, shall we?
Also, but let's go ahead. Let's hit these comments.
Yes, let's definitely hit those. So we have, again, from McKinley Cutler, man, what a dumpster fire. I'm assuming you're talking about the Jazz season. And it kind of is. But it's also kind of fun to kind of watch this as it's progressing and
unfolding. Yeah.
This is uncharted territory for us Utah Jazz fans. We've never been in a position where we're in a long-term rebuild. Where you had those, years where you had what's his name ended up playing for Team Puerto Rico, Carlos Arroyo, years, and then you had your years where you had what's his name, Al Jefferson, which he was
Big Al,
great player, but yeah,
dude, I was so excited when we got Big Al.
Yeah, it was like 2 years, and then all of a sudden we were back in the playoffs again. So it's a little different this time around. We've never been this bad for this long, so it's definitely going to be interesting. We also have another comment here from McKinley that says, Hardy is a good coach. Last 2 years, he has won too many games. Glad he is on board with the tank. We all know why he called that timeout. Exactly. Yeah, icing his own player, man. It's so great. And I'm not talking about the Pelicans season as a bastard.
No,
I'm talking about
the Pelicans season. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, if anybody's having a worse year than Jazz, it's definitely the Pelicans because they have the talent, to be a potential playoff team, and they're just not. So it's an interesting year for them for sure. But it could be said about the same thing, dumpster fire for the Jazz too.
I think you missed still think that flag is a number one.
Oh yeah, let's get to that one. Still think the flag is number one. Harper is playing a cupcake schedule while
flag is playing much better competition.
Yeah, and the thing is,
an ACC schedule for Duke is a little more is a touch different than playing for Rutgers.
Yeah, which by the way, I would like to point out that I was totally on board with them actually having a much better year in football this year than others. I got lambasted in that video.
Just saying. You nailed it, and people are hating at a massive level.
Yeah. But the good point about the Cooper over what was his name? We were just talking about him.
Harper,
thank you. The big thing about that is that Harper is very much a proven offensive talent.
Yeah.
He is not what Cooper Flag is, and Cooper Flag is, forgive me for use a baseball term, we're going to baseball here in a minute, but Cooper Flag is really a 5-tool type player.
Right.
He is going to be expected to do more on defense.
He can do it all.
He can shoot. He can play make.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be a little bit. Eddie's always going to be the number one option for the best defender on the other team. They're going to be scheming around him versus, not so much for Harper. So, yeah, good point there. Great point for sure.